Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Livingston, and I'm here for another edition of Quorum Live, our series of conversations with Quorum Initiative members and friends from around the globe. The Quorum Initiative is a global group of women who are seeking to make change, to create more direct pathways for women to the executive suite and to leadership roles, to attract more investment in women owned and led businesses, and to populate corporate boards with more women. So today I am delighted to welcome my guest, Helen Evans, who joins us from the UK. Helen is founder of The Listening People, a brand marketing and communications consultancy, as I said, based in London. Before starting her business, and we're going to talk about that today, about the change from big corporate to her own business. Helen spent 20 years at some of the world's leading professional services firms, including EY, Latham and Watkins, and Willis Towers Watson. Today, she works with business leaders on strategies and campaigns that bring purpose to life, deliver vision and strategy, amplify brand, increase employee engagement, and grow reputation, relationships, and revenue. All of her work is founded on deep listening, and her company is The Listening People. So, welcome, Helen, to today's conversation.
Thanks so much, Julie. Hello, everybody.
So, Helen, you were working in big corporate. You were there for 2 decades. Can you, kind of describe that experience, the pros, the cons, the good, bad, and the ugly, as we say, from a career development perspective? Maybe you can describe that for us.
So absolutely. So all of my roles, starting at Towers Perrin and now Willis Towers Watson, were all international in nature. So I always got to work across borders, between the UK and the US, Europe, and through EY, even more globally. So I had a fantastic experience, met the most fantastic people, the smartest people, and made, some of my best friends today are people who I worked with at those big corporates. I'm kind of think of myself as a bit of a sponge. I love to soak in everything. I would say that listening is a superpower. So in the various different roles that I did have in those big corporates, I learned a tremendous amount about my craft, about the audiences, but also about business. At EY, for instance, I was lucky enough to be on the leadership team for the EMEA financial services business. Before I did a 2-year secondment in New York, another fantastic opportunity that I wouldn't have had unless I was in a big corporate. There, I worked very closely with the Americas board and all of their leaders, and again met great friends that I have today. And then when I came back, I was on the global brand marketing and communications leadership team, as well as the global advisory leadership team. So on those leadership teams, you're really learning about how to run a business, all the growth, the people aspect of it, the risks and risk management, how to, finances, KPIs, reporting, what's important, what's not important, sales and pipeline and various different things like that. So really a tremendous experience of learning and growth. The cons, of course, are around, big global, heavily matrixed organizations come with a lot of stress. You fill your days with meetings, everybody needs something, you feel responsible for your team and their success, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, the other thing that also comes is the politics, which is not something that I was ever particularly good at.
The politics. Yes, yes, yes. And would you say that you were working in male dominated industries? I think that's an important thing to mention.
So that is true. I mean, certainly, yes, they are all male dominated, but certainly at Towers and certainly at EY, huge focus on diversity and ensuring that gender equality in particular. that they were working on. But yes, definitely male dominated. And in fact, my time in the legal sector, would be maybe the only female or one of two females in any room.
Wow. And how do you think that affected the way you were able to grow and advance in big corporate? Did it play a role at all?
So it did. And I think when I think about having come out of big corporate and been exposed to a less corporate life, I kind of realized that I don't want to say I was conditioned, but I took on a very male leadership approach to the world because, of course, you see the leaders, they are all male, they are all 6 foot and dark suited and smart and all of that sort of stuff. And all the leadership traits that we were trained were all based on male leadership, and that's what the corporate world was. And of course, it has changed dramatically. So if anything, since coming out of corporate, I've probably become a bit more feminine and got more in touch with my feminine side of that. And that also speaks to, my age and the length of time that I've been working, I think. But I think I think now the onus on corporates is to change the attributes that they associate with leadership and bring in some more of the female traits and not just look at those old-fashioned male leadership traits.
Interesting. So you were in the corporate world for 20 years and then decided to start your own business. Was there a specific event or circumstance that precipitated your decision to take the leap toward entrepreneurship?
So there was, and so I found, the stress levels were high. I was traveling the world, had a lot of responsibility, and I kept telling myself, oh, well, if I could just get through this next milestone, everything will get a bit easier. And that could be get my global team together for the first time, or launch that service, or make that key hire, and on it went. And then my former boss, who I'd worked with in EMEA Financial Services and then in the Americas, after a career at EY, and as he was, facing into really enjoying grandkids and all of those sorts of things, got diagnosed with cancer. And 6 months later, he passed away. So it was a real wake-up call to me. He was age 56.
Oh, my.
That kind of said, am I going to keep telling myself that everything is going to be okay until suddenly I'm not even here anymore? So that was, it's abrupt, but that was the wake-up call that says I want to do something different, and I need to take it into my own hands now. So kind of reflected on it, thought about, was excited about all the things that I could do on my own, and so handed in my resignation. Did a 5-month notice period, which helped EY get my successor in place, and also kind of gave me time to make peace with my own decision and transition into the next chapter, if that makes sense.
Wow. I mean, this was a huge change for you. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but this was big, right? So how did you prepare? How did you get to that place where you decided to jump? I mean, and what was it about? What kind of personality traits do you think helped you through this? I know earlier we were talking about resilience.
Yes. So
and adaptiveness to change.
Absolutely. And so kind of as a marketer and a communicator, you spend your life communicating change. So you're really, soaking it up before anybody else has even heard about it, if you like. So I am a great absorber of change. I do have a high level of resilience, but also I'm a risk taker. So, I did very easily make the decision, yes, a 2-year secondment to New York. Why not leave everything I know and love in London, and as a single person just relocate to another city? So that's kind of in my personality. And other considerations, of course, you do need a little bit of financial security and know that it's going to be okay if you don't earn anything for, 6 months or so. So I happened to have a hobby that was refurbishing houses and selling them on. So I had a little bit of cushion and something to fall back on. But yes, I think being open to change, knowing that it's going to be different, having that little bit of a cushion and being realistic about it. It may take 3 to 6 months before I put another penny in the bank.
Right. So having the right support system in place, I think can make all the difference in taking these kinds of big risks in your career. So tell us a little bit about your support system and the people who kind of helped you get there.
So I think first and foremost, I turned to my friends and colleagues who had done it before. So people who had already made that journey, kind of went out and talked to them, asked them for their insights, asked them for their top tips, their lessons learned, etc. And, people love to share their experience, had no qualms in giving me the time to have that conversation, to give me their tips. And ultimately, I'm sure every one of them introduced me to somebody else that they thought was relevant. So and their top tip, actually, by the way, was tap into your network.
So I guess they were supportive?
Totally supportive. And, again, would share warts and all, what not to do, what to be wary of, what does take time. But more importantly, kind of opened up their own books to say, actually, you should talk to this person or you should talk to that person, and then made introductions. So that led to all sorts of possibilities. So, for instance, one contact put me in touch with the founder of something called HubDot, a startup that brings together communities, mostly of women, around various different themes. And that was my first exposure to entrepreneurship, other people running their own businesses, learning, more from what they do. And actually that founder has now become a lifelong friend and has always been we've always been great supporters of each other. When I got a client in Paul Hastings, I was introduced to Meg, who runs Quorum, of course, and then entered the whole world of Quorum. And again, it's those sorts of communities that are a huge support, and that, you find who you need at any given time, and also the amount of inspiration and learning that you get from the wonderful, diverse group of people that makes up something like a Quorum.
Did you experience different kinds of feedback from women versus men in your network? Because I remember, now I'm older than you, Helen, but I remember when I started my own business, a lot of the women in my network were very fearful about, they were excited for me to start my own business, but they were also fearful. Like, are you really going to do this?
Yeah, so I'm not sure there was a difference between men and women. Certainly people, and again, I guess it depends on their risk profile. I can't separate it between men and women, but there is an element of you're so brave, and others, good on you, why not? But I will say, when my former business partner and I, knocked on some mail doors of people that we had worked with previously just to say what we were doing, there was a little bit of, can you really do it? If it's, just the two of you, a little, some of that going on. So I've certainly found probably females to be more supportive in real terms, and probably offering up their contacts.
Right.
Yeah, it was, a fellow twin mom, part of the Twins Club, that introduced me to my former business partner, who I co-founded the Listening People with.
Okay. So you've been doing the Listening People for how long?
So 4 years. We just passed
4 years. Wow. So it's still pretty new. what have been some of the rewards of business ownership and some of the downsides?
So I guess the thing that I haven't mentioned, that once I left the EY bubble and had a little bit more time and space and less stress, I met my husband.
Ah,
and
well,
then
good timing.
Well, there's a correlation between less stress and
Right,
being in a
sure.
better place to meet people. And then not long after that, we had twins. So the twins are 5.5 years old. The listening people is 4 years old. So certainly one of the first benefits is, I run the listening people. It gives flexibility. I am on my time, although that doesn't mean to say that I can take days off whenever I want, because
Right,
we
of
are
course not.
a service company. Our clients come first. So, we do put in a lot of hours, not less work. But certainly the benefit is you are in charge of your own destiny. For me, another benefit is building something, growing something, nurturing something, shaping something that might be new and distinct. The opportunity it gives to work with such a diverse range of peoples in terms of both clients, but also in terms of the people that I can bring on to the team. And I love to find people that are different to me and have different skills to me and a different perspective to me, and bring them together on a client's challenge or opportunity, and bring a broad perspective. The cons, of course, are that you're never off. You are not working around the clock, but you are working hard, and particularly at this scale-up phase, where you don't have people or the right number of people to delegate to. So you're 1 minute in the weeds, and the next minute you're trying to do big picture strategic things. Would be
Yeah,
another.
that's just the way it is. I know, being on vacation recently with friends who work in the public sector, and I needed to check my email a couple of times, and I needed to respond a few times on a project that I was working on. They were sort of like, "Aren't you on vacation?" But yes, I am on vacation, but I'm also a business owner, and this is, I have to stay in touch to a certain extent.
Yeah, absolutely. And we currently are organically growing. So we haven't been out for investment or need investment. So we don't have to answer to anybody, but you're also keeping an eye on, the salaries that you need to pay, et cetera, and having that responsibility.
And what about that feeling of steering the ship?
So it feels good, and also having the conversation. So another great source of inspiration and support that I get is from some of our clients who are actually female founders as well. So having conversations with them and hearing about their challenges and opportunities, and applying that to my own business, and also bouncing ideas off them is hugely helpful. And taking that input and then being able to steer the ship based on the input, adapting in the moment, because it is your ship.
That's right. That's one of the things I love about it too. So what are your top tips, Helen, for making all this happen? I mean, it is a big step, and there might be certain things that people should have in place or think about before they do it.
Yes, of course. And having a good understanding of what they're good at and what risk appetite they have, and the financials and all of those sorts of things. But my top tips are: believe in yourself. I think every organization started out with one or two people with some idea. So Ernst & Young started out with Ernst and Winnie in Wisconsin, or in Cleveland, and Arthur Young in the UK, and now look at the size of them. Don't think, oh, it's just, whilst humility is great and not having too big of an ego, I think believing in yourself and having ambition and just going for it is the first one. The second is invest in yourself. What I see too often with female founders in particular is, they're saving their dollars or pounds for the marketing or for this or for that. They really, I think, investing in yourself and any kind of development programs. So for instance, I work with the wonderful Dana Galen, who's a part of the Quorum initiative, invested in really exploring my purpose and how it linked to what I was trying to do with the business. I've been on a leadership retreat last year with other female founders where, again, the mutual support, the learning, the development, and stepping out of the business to, reflect on where you're at and what you want to do next is really important. And
I just want to jump in there, Helen, because this is such an important point that you bring up. We know that women tend to put others first, and whether they're mothers or not. And they do not typically invest financially and in terms of time in their own learning and personal development. And I think that's something that women should reconsider and really think about while they're in big corporate, but also, to get as much out of that experience as possible, to really push for learning and development opportunities for themselves that could help them advance, but also help them acquire new skills. And I think when you're in your own business, that is just as vital to do.
Even more vital. So 100%, and it will pay dividends. Because again, and even the one person that you might meet who might then be on your personal board or whatever it might be, it's going to pay dividends. And then the third one is around recreating what you loved about corporate life. So, if you're leaving some of the aspects of it behind, but there are big aspects of it that you love. So for me, it was around being around really smart people every day, people with their fingers on the pulse of what was going on in digital and analytics and various different things. So I sat back and I thought, how do I recreate that in my new entrepreneurial kind of small business life? And I've taken every opportunity, anybody that's ever introduced me to anybody, I've taken the meeting, had a call with them, understood who they are. And then for many, I've found ways of bringing them into the business somehow. So some of them, I can't afford to hire them, but I can bring them in on a day rate to be an advisor on a project. So sure. I get the benefit of their great experience, different perspective. I get what I enjoy, which is learning from, really, really smart people. And my clients get the benefit of all these great brains. So that's just one example of how you can think about, what did I love? Can I recreate it? And I think there will always be a way of recreating some of that.
What about culture?
So I guess bringing the best aspects of it. Well, there's a great understanding of people and cultures coming out of your big organization, and taking a critical eye to what worked. What do I know? What do I want to be? Where are the role models that I've seen? And then what do I not want to be? Who are the anti-role models?
Right.
And then thinking about what are the values? What is the culture that you want to create? And then get your people involved in creating that culture, because it's not just yours.
Yeah, that's where I think so much of the fun of entrepreneurship comes in, is creating that unique culture that is yours.
Yeah,
that is all about your company. One of the things that I have found in being an entrepreneur is that I have been open to learning and keeping up with technology. Can you speak about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think it's there's so much out there. I love the possibility of technology, but I don't necessarily need to know how it all works. So I've certainly worked with other female founders who've built their own websites, whereas I'm like, that is not me.
Right. You can't do everything.
I don't want to take up brain cells with that kind of information. I am going to outsource that. That said, I think understanding the tools that are out there and what the possibilities are, and then understanding how they can benefit your business, and then find the people that can help bring them to you.
Yeah. You don't have to be the tech expert, but you should have. I mean, we're living in a digital age, and you really have to keep pace. Just having an understanding and an awareness of how things are changing and the technology that is available out there that can help you in your business, you should be keeping up with that and surround yourself by a circle of people who can help you, who you could outsource to, or at least ask questions of when you need it.
Absolutely. And I think, being in finding your tribe of other founders and, hearing what they're doing. Like, I work with female founders who are so good at getting all the processes and systems in place to scale. And so I'm like, oh, I'm going to listen to everything that you have to say and learn from that. And then others might, be better at the whole finance side of things or the partnership side of things. So just learning as much as you can from as many people who are experiencing it as possible. And then yesterday I did catch up with one of my old EY buddies. And she is actually leading an AI transformation at EY. So we had a long conversation.
Oh, cool. That's great.
Technology and AI and all the possibilities that are there with this. So, we can delegate to AI.
Absolutely. And you know what? There are so many resources to learn about technology these days on LinkedIn, webinars, talks that you could tap into. And again, you don't need to be an expert in everything. But if you are going to be marketing and promoting a new business, you should have a sense of what could be available to you.
Absolutely. And the right questions to ask and the right expert to find. And then, a little knowledge, of course, is a dangerous thing, but enough to really, because I also think there are so many marketers out there who say they can do something and really they can't. They're skimming the surface. So equipping yourself with the right questions to understand whether the people that are going to serve you have the depth that they need to have to utilize those tools.
Helen, where can people find you? How can they get in touch?
So they can find me at helen@thelisteningpeople.com email address or via our website, which is also.
Or I guess on LinkedIn.
And LinkedIn, absolutely. Yes.
This has been an awesome conversation, Helen. I learned a lot. And thank you so much for joining me today on Quorum Live. We'll be back soon with another great conversation in this series of Quorum Lives.